general direction. You were also on the front cover of Vogue magazine. Think that qualifies you for hard news stories? Once again, the bitter sense of unfairness felt like it was choking her and tightening its hold. I didn't write the article. I was interviewed. You looked real good, too, in your couture clothes and your fancy new haircut. She couldn't help it. She put a hand to her bobbed hair. She still wasn't used to the shorter style, but she'd learned to love the ease with which she could get ready in the morning, and the lack of restriction, both from the hair pinned high on her head and the clothes she'd once worn. I'm not sending a Vogue model into a men's prison, he replied with an air of finality. They chew you up and spit you out. Perhaps the pale blue designer dress had been a mistake. Obviously, I wouldn't wear this outfit to interview an imprisoned anarchist. Doesn't matter what you wear. You're not doing it. I've already got you an assignment. The way he spoke, she suspected it wasn't any one of a million hard news stories she would love to cover. He said, It's a society wedding. Her worst fears were realized. A society wedding? Since when did I become a wedding reporter? And she thought about it for a second. I didn't even know we had one. We have a wedding reporter when I say we do, and today, I say we do. He inhaled smoke and blew it out so his next words emerged like curly ribbons of smoke. And you're it. She supposed she could get through one society wedding if she had to. Maybe she could bargain with him. Maybe she'd agree to do one society wedding if he let her do one news story. If she'd learned one thing about Walter Strutt in the months she'd worked in the Paris office of the Chicago Post, it was that he could be pushed. She'd tried not to do it unless absolutely necessary, but she was also a very determined young woman, and she hadn't come to Paris to write about hem lengths. The Chicago International Post was the biggest English-language newspaper in Paris, beloved of expats who longed for news of home as well as local stories that interested them. Unfortunately, a lot of that was society gossip. He pushed an envelope toward her. To her surprise, her name was typewritten on the front of it. She was mildly shocked that he'd gone ahead and opened it before she'd even seen it. Usually, when people wrote to her at the newspaper, the envelopes were left unmolested. Most of her mail was from people, mainly women, telling her how much they admired her. Abby had been quite famous not so long ago, when she was implicated in the murder of her stepmother, a crime that took place in one of the up-and-coming couture houses in Paris. The tentacles of the story had reached back into the Great War, and the coverage had been sensational. She'd briefly been the most famous woman in Paris, and readers back home in the States, as well as here in Paris, had eagerly awaited the next installment in her first-person account of her ordeal. Who didn't love a story about a young woman unfairly accused of murder? Certainly the readers of the Chicago Post had lapped up her first-person accounts and begged for more. There was talk of a book deal. Reporting on high society weddings was not the way to fulfill her destiny, Abby was positive. Still, she opened the envelope and discovered she was looking at the personal stationery of Lady Victoria Wimborne, with an address of Darrington Manor, Somerset, England. She glanced sharply up at Walter Strutt, but decided to keep reading to the end of the missive before saying a word. The Wimborne wedding must be taking place in Paris. Abby would be bored to tears, but she could manage a few hours at the Ritz or Le Meurice. She'd write something lovely about the bride and groom, and what she wore, and who'd styled her hair, and who'd cried at the wedding, and what important dignitaries were present. And then she'd make Walter Strutt give her something better. However, as she read down the letter, she discovered this was not only an invitation to attend the wedding of the Viscount and the Viscountess Wimborne's daughter, the Honorable Cressida Wimborne, to Reginald Mitchell, Esquire, but it turned out her presence was requested not just for one day, but a full week of festivities taking place at Darrington Manor, in Somerset, in England.